everyone, welcome to the 2.9 multi-step inequalities notes. What we're going to be focusing on today is taking everything you've learned about inequalities so far and applying it to ones that take 3 or more steps to solve. So we've done 1 steps, we've done 2 steps, and now we're going to talk about how to do ones that have 3 or more steps. That third step is going to be one of these first 2 things. The first one being combining like terms. Remember that like terms have to have the same variable and can be combined. For example, 3x plus 4x Hey everyone, welcome to the 2.9 multi-step inequalities notes. Today we're going to be taking what we already know about inequalities and using it to solve inequalities that take 3 or more steps. Since we've already done 1 steps and 2 steps, that third extra step is going to be one of the first 2 things over here on the left, like terms or distributing. Keep in mind that like terms are terms that have the same variable and therefore they can be combined. For example, 3x plus 4x is 7x. Just make sure you don't try and do 3x plus 4. That does not equal 7x because the 4 doesn't have an x on it and the 3 does. The second thing is distributing. If there is a number in front of parentheses, then you need to multiply it to everything inside the parentheses. For example, 3 times 2x minus 4. 3 times 2x is 6x, and 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. So 3 times 2x minus 4 is the same thing as 6x minus 12. We're going to look for those 2 things first, and then everything left after we've done those 2 things will be a 2-step inequality like we talked about last week. You are also going to see some examples where x is on the right side of the inequality instead of the left. And there are a lot of different ways you can solve these. For right now, though, my suggestion is going to be that if x is on the right side, switch the order. And when you flip the or switch the order, you have to flip the inequality symbol as well. So let's practice that first just so you know what it looks like before we get to it in the middle of an example. If you see the inequality 3 is less than or equal to x, that is the same thing as saying 3 is smaller than x, which means x is bigger than or equal to 3 or greater than or equal to 3. So if I want to write x on the correct side and 3 on the other side, I need to flip that symbol the other way at the same time. Notice how this means that the side closest to x, the open side, is still facing x down here as well. So this is just practicing switching the order. If I wanted to do this for the next one, I would flip the symbol first and write the 8 on the right side instead of the left side, which means the x plus 3 would move to the left side. And again, the whole point is just I want you to know you can switch the sides as long as you flip the symbol with it, because the side that was facing x on this one was the pointy side, and the pointy side is still facing towards the x. And last one, negative 2x is on one side, 10 is on the other. We're just going to switch the order and switch the symbol with it. The open side is facing X in the first example. The open side is still facing X after we've switched the order. All right, take a second to make sure you have got all three of those reordered inequalities down, and we'll start in on some examples of how to solve them. All right, let's solve the first example together. I'm going to read it out loud. As I do, I want you to think about what your first step is going to be. 8x minus 5 plus 3x is less than negative 27. The first thing I notice is that there aren't any parentheses on this one, so we don't have to distribute. The second thing I notice, if I look at just the left side, is that I have two separate x's. I'm going to go ahead and combine those together first. 8x plus 3x. This is where we draw the v to combine them. We don't write minus 3x underneath because they're already on the same side. We only do that if we need to switch sides. So 8x plus 3x is 11x. And then I keep the negative 5 or the minus 5 that goes afterwards. And nothing about the other side is going to change yet. So I keep my less than sign and the negative 27. Everything we're going to do after this is just a two-step inequality that we learned how to do on Friday. I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to start by undoing the minus 5 by adding 5 to both sides. Remember that you're always doing the opposite because you want to cancel it out so that it's not next to x anymore. And you have to do it on both sides. That means that on the left side, I just have 11x. I keep my less than symbol. And then negative 27 plus 5 is negative 22. Then, anytime we want to get rid of a coefficient in front of x, that 11 and the x are being multiplied together, so the opposite of multiplication is division. And negative 22 divided by 11 is negative 2, leaving me with x. Now, I divided by the number 11. Since that 11 is not negative, I don't need to flip my symbol. I keep the same one in between. Still less than. I have left x is less than negative 2, which means I need to put negative 2 on my number line. Since it's not or equal to, I'm going to put an open circle and shade it less than to the left, which you can either do by shading like that or drawing an arrow like that. One last thing, if it helps you, you can add the number line, one number on each side. Just remember that negatives work backwards because they're on the opposite side of 0. So we're heading towards negative 3 because negative 3 is less than negative 2. All right, let's try another one. The next problem does have parentheses. So the first thing I'm going to do is take only the number directly in front, which would be 4, and I'm going to multiply it times x and times negative 5. 4 times x is 4x. And 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Then keep the 2 plus in front and the greater than or equal to 18 at the end. Now, just like on the problem before this, I noticed that on the left side, I've got a 2 and a minus 20. And you can either combine those now and do 2 minus 20, or I'm going to show you one other thing I've seen a lot of people doing recently that works. Some have been adding the 20 to both sides to get rid of it, like that, because it was subtracting 20. Remember, we're always doing the opposite. So I have the 2 plus 4x left, greater than or equal to, and then 18 plus 20 is 38. Then I subtract the 2. Because it's positive 2, leaving me with just 4x is greater than or equal to 38 minus 2, which is 36. And last but not least, we are going to divide by the 4, because you always divide by the coefficient in front of x, since it's being multiplied, even though we can't see it. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so we have 1x is greater than or equal to 36 divided by 4, 9. Which means we're going to put 9 on our number line with a closed circle, because it's or equals to, and go to the greater than direction, right. If you want to add the two numbers on the sides of 9, a number line would go 8, 9, 10. So we're going towards the 10 because 10 is greater than or equal to 9. All right, last two. The one on the bottom left is the first one we've seen that has x's on both sides. Here's what we're going to start with. I see parentheses, so the first thing I'm going to do is multiply that 2 times the 4x, which gives me 8x, and multiply the 2 times the negative 5, which gives me negative 10. And then I'm going to write the rest of it exactly as it already was. Less than 12x plus 22. Then I need to get the x's together. And normally it's easiest to read an inequality if they're on the left side, as I said before when I talked about the order. So I'm going to subtract the 12x. Over to the left side, 8 minus 12 is negative 4. So I have negative 4x minus 10 is less than, and now it's just 22 on the other side. Then I'm going to add 10, because that's the opposite of subtracting 10, which is what was already in the problem. Negative 4x is less than 32. And we're going to divide by negative 4 on both sides, because negative 4 is in front of x, which means it's being multiplied. And the opposite of multiplication is division. Now, I am dividing by a negative. And dividing by a negative means we have to flip. So x is going to be greater than, instead of less than, 32 divided by negative 4, which is negative 8. So I put negative 8 on my number line. If it helps, you can add a number on each side. But since negatives go backwards because they're on the other side of 0, it would be negative 9, negative 8, negative 7. I'm going to draw an open circle because this is a greater than but not equal to symbol. And I'm going to go to the number that's greater than -8, which is -7. If you're having trouble thinking of which one's greater than and the negatives, think about it this way. Would you rather have -$8 or -$7? You would be either owing somebody 8 or owing somebody 7. Obviously, owing somebody $7 is just slightly better. All right, in our last example, I see parentheses. So again, I'm going to take that number in front and I'm going to multiply it through. That's a really easy first step if you have a number in front of the parentheses because it stands out to most of us. So 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 4 is 12. And then I keep the 27 and the same symbol in between. Greater than or equal to. Now, this one looks kind of funky to me because x is on the right side and there's no x's on the left side to subtract it over to. So what I'm going to do is flip the symbol and write it over here and put the 27 on the other side. Just remember that if you're going to flip the order here, you have to flip the symbol with it. So now it's less than or equal to. And I have a two-step inequality left. So I see I'm adding 12 on the left side already, which means I need to subtract 12 to cancel that out, leaving me with 3x. That's not multiplying or dividing by a negative, so I keep the same symbol. And 27 minus 12 is 15. Hopefully you know this last step by now. There's a 3 in front of the x as the coefficient, so you divide by 3 on both sides. X is less than or equal to 15 divided by 3, which is 5. Go ahead and put 5 on your number line. I want you to go ahead and take a guess at the graph before I put the answer on here. Just a reminder that the number line would go 4, 5, 6. All right, since that's less than or equal to, we would draw a closed circle. And since it's less than and 4 is less than 5, we would go that way.